Hello everybody, welcome back. So now let's get into a little bit more of programming, and I'm going to use Jupyter Notebook just because it's that simple, all right? And I already did a couple of videos to introduce Jupyter Notebook. I also introduced Spider. So I'm showing you Anaconda because I'm using Anaconda to launch those two tools. So basically when you launch Jupyter Notebook, it's going to find your browser, and you're going to use your browser as the tool where you will be programming. But it doesn't mean you're doing it online, on the web. It only means you're using the browser for that. So I already have it running, so let me go there. Once you're in Jupyter Notebook, you can navigate to the subdirectory that you want. And here I want to use, let me remove this. No, I'm just going to not remove. There is some update. I'll get back to the update later. I'm going to navigate to my subdirectory, and it's under CEIS110 Python March 2024 modules. Remember, I'm sharing this with you through GitHub. If you clone my GitHub, which I showed in another video, you will be able to see the same directories that I have in here. And I'm going to run the first one, lesson 1, that I have right here. So I go to lesson 1, and I started to edit it just before. So what we have here are cells. If I click here, you see the beginning and the end of the cell. If I double click, you'll see that this cell is a markdown type of cell with markdown type of code. In this case, the pound sign means it's a header. So when I run that cell, it makes it look nice and pretty. This is also another cell, which is a little bit more fancy because it has a table. I'm not going to open it right now. We'll get back to the table and you can play with it later. It'll take a little time to go through it. But I wanted to share it with you because in this table is what I want to talk with you about, which is math operators. Plus, minus, add, subtract, multiply, divide, floor division, a remainder. When you do long division, the remainder, that's at the bottom of your long division. And exponent. Exponent is 2 to the 3, 3 to the 5, etc. When you have a double asterisk, okay? There is another variables that are noted that you have to remember that you cannot use are these because they are reserved for actual special things like and, delete, or del, from, non, true. Just remember you cannot use this variable names, but you can use about any other variable name. And I'm going to show you a few, and you will be learning this as we go, all right? So let's start with the first line of code here. Remember, this accompanies your ZY book, that is an online book. When you do the ZY book, you will be or have the option to, what you're learning there, copy and paste that code and put it in a new Jupyter Notebook of your own and test it over there because it'll make it easy to absorb and to learn it. All right, so let's go through this code. This is a little snippet. This is a little snippet of code. It has a little tiny bundle of code. When I have the pound sign right here, it doesn't do anything. That's a comment. It's a comment for me as a human being, to read it and remember what it is that I'm trying to do, and let other people that I may be sharing this code with to see what it is that I was trying to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to declare variables, and I'm going to store values inside those variables. All right. So the first variable that I have now is called apples underscore names. They have to be all together, no spaces, right? All text together, no spaces. I can use the underscore. I like to use all lowercase with underscore. There are other standards to use variable names, like 3 little letters and a capital and then small letters. You learn that you're going to be taking other code classes, and you learn other techniques. I like this. Nice and simple, lowercase with an underscore. And I'm going to assign a value to the apple name, and that value is the word apple. It is a word, it's text. Text is a string of characters. And I know it's a string of characters because I have them within quotation marks. You can use single quotation marks or double quotation marks. Doesn't matter. They work the same way as long as the one you use at the beginning is the same type that you use at the end. If you use single quotation marks at the beginning and double at the end, it's going to be confused. I like single quotation marks. Sometimes I cannot help it because they may be embedded, they may be nested. But I like simple things, clean things, so single quotation marks is good for me. The next one is I'm going to assign apple count to, I'm going to create another variable called apples underscore count, and this time I'm going to assign a number. This is just a full number. There's no decimal points. When there are no decimal points, my number is an integer. You have integer type of numbers because you also have, as you see in the next line of code, float type of numbers. Those are notations that we use in Python. Other languages may vary the word a little bit, so you have to remember which one it is. It makes a difference internally in the computer because an integer does not require as much memory as a float. A floating number may require more memory space because you have decimals and they may be long. Okay. So anyway, it just does work a little bit differently. So the next one is a float, like I guess I was saying, and it's apples underscore price. And then I have another command that by now you may be getting familiar with because it's already in your introduction, in your ZY books, which is print. And print, within parentheses, you have a list of variables that you will print. So let's go ahead and run it. And it does what I told it to do. It assigned the word apple to apple's name, the number 10 to apple's count, the number 0.75 to apple's price, and then I printed it. And when I printed it, I see the result right below. If we were doing this on Spider, Spider will have printed it on the console side, and we will do some exercises using Spider so you can see the difference. It's very important to get familiar with both. All right. So I printed it and I did what I wanted it to do. The next, I have another cell. Oh, by the way, I know I have not ran this cell because there is no number right here. All right, there is no number right there. Notice that. Let me get you a pencil. Notice that here you have a number 1, and here we don't have a number. That's because I have not ran that snippet of code. But I'm going to run it now. So I click on the run right here. It ran, and what it did, I'm asking it to tell me what's inside apples underscore name. And it came back and it gave me apple. That's what's inside apples underscore name. Now here, what I had circled already, remember a few seconds ago, it was empty. Now it has the number 2 because it's the second script that I have ran today. If I keep on running scripts, it'll be counting up. And that's how I know, that's how I kind of keep track of how many things I have ran. So let me get rid of those yellows. So now let's do another one. What's inside apple's count is the number 10. As you can see, I assigned the 10 to apple's count. And there it is. It's apple's count. So it's got a number 10. And the price, as you will expect, what do you expect? 0.75. 75 cents an apple. Inflation, is that what they're going for right now? I don't know. It's just for an example. Okay, just an example. I like apples. All right, so now let's try multiplication. Multiplication is accomplished with the asterisk character. So what I do is I first write a variable where I'm going to store the result of my multiplication. And I say equal. Then I'm going to say what I'm going to multiply. The first number, by the way, they have to be numbers. So apple's count is a number, number 10, and apple's price is another number 0.75. So I'm going to multiply it. After I multiply it, I'm going to print it. And I'm going to get a little more sophisticated when I print it. I'm going to print and I'm going to pass on a string to the print command, or the print method, or print function. By the way, that's a function. I'm going to send this string of characters to the print function. Then I'm going to send the result of my multiplication, which is values values of apples. That's what I called it. And then after that, I'm going to send another string that is going to say dollars. So let's run that. Ooh, as you can see, this goes to number 5, and it prints exactly what I told it to do. The value of my apples, the value is equal $7.5, which indeed is 10 times 0.75 is 7.5. All right, so another way to pull what the value of my apples was is by just running a command that says, tell me what's inside values of apples, and it's 7.5. Now let's do another, let's get some oranges. So this time I'm going to assign oranges names orange. I'm going to get 20 of those, and they go for 50 cents. A little bit cheaper than an apple. And I'm going to do just like I did before. I'm going to print that. So orange 20, that's the name of my fruit. I have 20 of those, and they cost 0.5 cents. I'm going to, this time, I'm going to add how much fruit I have. I'm mixing apples and oranges. It's okay. I'm going to mix apples and oranges. I just want to know how much fruit I have. So I'm going to add the counts of my oranges and my apples, and I'm going to put it on my total fruit. Then I'm going to print it. By printing, I'm going to pass a string to the print function and the total fruit. Here we go. So there it is. The total number of fruit, apples and oranges, is 30, right? So I have 20 oranges and 10 apples, right? I have 10 apples. So when I add 10 plus 20, I get 30. Pretty simple, right? I can also run that sum without assigning it to total fruit, just by running it. If I just write it like this, if I just put the equation right there, and it's going to run, but it didn't store anyway, but I can see the number. So it may be useful for me to see the result, even though I'm not storing it into another variable. But I had already stored it into another variable from before, and I can see what's in there, and it's 30. So as you can see, I can run my sum by itself, or I can just go back and look at what's stored inside fruit, total fruit. All right, so here I'm going to do a subtraction, and the subtraction is I'm going to eat some apples. I'm going to eat 3 apples. So if I eat 3 apples, how many apples do I have? So I have my apples count is going to go to my apples count that I had before, and minus 3. Now this is very curious, because in my equation on my left, I have the name of the variable to where I'm going to assign the result. And when I calculate it, I have the same name of the same variable, which is kind of strange, right? You're new in programming, you're going to go like, that goes against what I learned in math. Yes, it is, because even though we're doing math, we're doing instructions of math for the computer. And we're telling the computer the following. I'm telling the computer, I want you to subtract 3 from the value that I have inside apples count. And then I'm going to store that result inside apples counts. When I say that, it actually replaces whatever it had before. So think of this in terms of sequence. So the sequence is, first you do this, and then you store it here. Then I'm going to print it. And here we go. I printed right there. I'm going to give you some references here. So you can find this already in your GitHub. So please do get onto the GitHub. You're going to be watching my video. You can also type this on your own, but it's good that I share this with you. So do that, and I'm going to save it. So when you see it, you're going to see it with the results in them already. When you sync and clone and then copy it into your own subdirectory, you can change it. You can change apples, you can add strawberries, or you can do whatever you want. You practice, and you will be coding before you know it. All right? I'll talk to you later. Take care.